All right, here we are. Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com. I am Mike Jeffers, and welcome to Chicago Music Revealed. We have got the sound effects happening here. The great Craig Pilo, I appreciate him cranking out the live theme song for me. By the way, we are going to actually have theme video tomorrow. We're working on a new intro, so stand by that one. So thank Craig Pilo, as always. Of course, I'm Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com. Also, the program director and entertainment director at the Epiphany Center for the Arts, 201 South Ashland Avenue. We're going to be opening soon as all of this COVID-19 situation stops. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. And this is episode 23 of Chicago Music Revealed. So now, today we got a special guest. And I'm going to bring him up here in a second. I can hear him playing drums in the background, so we're going to see if we can catch him so he can hear us. But before we do that, Isaiah Spencer is going to be on the show here. But before we do that, I want to bring up a little bit and talk about some of the relief funding that we have. So if you go to Chicago Music Revealed, we've got a list now of all of the different GoFundMes. It's a link, actually. All the different GoFundMes for the venues, for the artists. That's up there. Of course, if there's other venues and clubs and artists that we should know about, be sure to hit us up. Let us know what's happening. We'll add things to our list. The ChicagoMusicRevealed.com website is up and running, and we're adding content to that. Also, the new issue of Chicago Jazz Magazine is going to be coming out for May. We are holding off on all feature interviews. We've got an incredible feature interview, actually, with Bobby Broom coming up, but we're going to hold that off until we can get back to some sort of normalcy, because I know that everything sort of went on pause here, and it's a great interview. So I'm going to see if we want to maybe drop that in June so we can get back to a little bit of normality, although I'm not sure where we're going to be in June as far as complete normality. But it's a great interview. And also, we've got CD reviews. We've got questions and Q&As and things like that. So that's all going to go up on Chicago Jazz Magazine in the next couple of days. We'll preview that. Tomorrow on the show, I should preview this as well, we've got Chuck Webb, great bassist from Chicago, Chuck Webb. He's going to be on the show. Along with, on Friday, Will Phelan's going to be on the show. And Will Phelan's a great singer-songwriter from Chicago. But today on the show, it's my pleasure. We've got to bring him on. We're going to bring him on. Isaiah Spencer is here. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, sir. How are you? What's happening?
There you are. Well, I can see you. Can you see me? Uh-oh. He just... Everything was going smooth, and then we just lost Isaiah. All right, so let's see if we can bring him back up here. Hold on a second here, folks. As I always say, this is live Facebook. So he and I had been talking. We've been Skype. Everything's been no problem. Everything's going smooth. And then all of a sudden, right when I bring him up, the whole thing goes black. So let's see if we can bring him up again. That's why you tune into this show, isn't it? To see like catastrophes like this come up. Because, it happens every once in a while. So let me see if I can grab him again. Let's see. We're going to call him, bring him up on Skype, see if we can catch Isaiah here and actually have it work this time. So stand by. We're going to give him a call. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the rain today. I didn't. I had to go to the vet today. I had 3 meetings this morning on the phone. It's been kind of crazy. See if we can bring Isaiah on. Isaiah, are you there? See if we can bring him up.
I am here. Here.
All right, let's see if we got you on the there you are. There you are. All right, let me bring on here. Hey, there you are. How are you?
What's up, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I always tell all the audience, I'm a drummer. I'm trying to run all the tech stuff back here and talk to them at the same time and bring up guests. And, we just improvised. We just, boom, you crashed out, we brought it back, and now we're back. So it's no big problem.
Yeah, they don't understand how we have to improvise, MJ. They don't understand.
Well,
they have no...
and you and I have to stick together because we're both drummers. And obviously, we both know we make the rest of the band sound good, too. So, it goes without saying.
Right. Right.
So,
right. Yeah. Say no more.
So there's a lot of stuff to talk to you about, but the first thing is obviously I've had you on the radar. I've seen you play. You've played with a lot of different people, toured and played all over the city, all over the Midwest and the country. But what I wanted to, but when I talked, when I connected with you again, because all of this COVID-19 thing hits, and one of the good silver linings is that as musicians, working musicians or busy musicians, nobody ever hangs, nobody ever runs into other musicians of the same instrument, especially drums, because you're working, I'm somewhere, you're always playing. So who's got time to hang? But I'm flipping through Facebook one night a couple of weeks ago, and it's got, I don't know, like midnight, and you're on there live, and you're playing down tunes, woodshedding up in your space. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. And it sounded great. And you were working on stuff, but then also talking to the people that were watching you and engaging and doing all that. Were you doing this kind of Facebook Live thing when you're working on stuff before this whole situation happened? Or is this something that you started experimenting with and now you're doing it fairly regularly?
Good question. Well, actually, no. I've been streaming, doing Facebook Live off and on for years because if you're following me on my timeline on Facebook, there's multiple things that I've shared from things from like 3 or 4 years ago. Like when we were playing, I play with a band. I play with the Trumpet Summit down at Andy's.
That's right.
Every Thursday. And I was sharing videos from those from way back when. So I would experiment with it off and on. And then, like I said, it became really, really popular. And, so I kind of backed off of it for a minute. And then, well, during this pandemic, I mean, I don't share everything I'm working on. Mm-hmm. I'm not a guy that's just going to turn it on and like start playing. Even in the videos that I've posted or that I've displayed, at least I try to be musical, or at least have some type of explanation, and at least try to have a clinical side to it as well as the, the musical creative side, so to speak, blah, 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 blah. Because if you are going to do a Facebook Live and you are in your space or at a gig, you still have a social responsibility as an entertainer and as just a human being who's letting a myriad of people into their circumference to let them know what's happening. And that's what brings that's what the allure is, and that's something that we don't talk very much about nowadays. Just the idea of being an entertainer. It's not It's not always about the suit. You got to have a suit on. You got to have a tie on. Roy Hargrove and Nick Payton, they prove that every day. They don't wear suits and ties. They come in there with Jordans on, with boots on. Man, Roy Hargrove came to a gig with a Carhartt suit on. Nonetheless, a full worker man Carhartt suit, killing it. But nonetheless, so it's really more about what you present to the audience, and even though it is social media, you still have to be presentable, and still, have that aspect of it going on as well.
Well, the thing that I like about it, now you and I are on the same wavelength because, from a drummer standpoint, when you're practicing, you got, everybody's working on chops and stuff, but I think that's secondary when you get to a certain level. I feel like you're not worried about working on chops. You're worried about playing down the melody, staying in time, using dynamics, and really being musical on the drums. And then your chops come out of that, right? You work on your chops so that you can be even more musical when you're improvising. And that's what I was watching the other night. And I've seen you more than just once up there doing that. But that's like one of those things that I love because I wanted to bring that up with you because I think it's important for the younger students that are watching this and then might tune in and check you out when you're doing that. That's key. That's what, that's really what I think the whole key of the entire situation with playing drums is being musical and backing up the band, right?
Absolutely. I've always been taught, I've had some great teachers, but all of them have always preached musicality, from Dana Hall to Dr. Curtis Prince to Ernest Adams to Ralph Peterson Jr., K. Wash, Hutch. I've had some really great teachers, and I'm fortunate. But, and Professor Carter, more so than anybody else, he would always get on us. And I'm fortunate that, I got around him when I was younger, 15, 16, you know, in those younger years to be able to shape the ideology of what practice is and how to practice, or at least have an idea or formula, you know, some type of formula to what it to understand what practice is,
Yep.
and to understand to always think musically when you're practicing. Even if you are working on chops, you can work on chops and still be musical. It doesn't have to be just a barrage of sound. Sometimes that is, you know, sometimes that is needed now. So it's a matter of subjective opinion.
Right.
But when you're practicing, you know, you should always be trying to be musical and be in some type of creative element. Because even when we're talking about rudimentary perspectives or multi-directional, blah, 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 it's still musical. You know, the drum set is 4-part harmony.
Yep.
You know, at least from
That's
the basic, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the toms are the other intermittent voices. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
You know, or the other stacking, the other chordal stacking on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Point being is that, so if you always think musical, then when you practice, it will never be. You'll never run out of ideas. You'll never run out of perspectives, and you'll never get bored.
Right.
You know, you won't go to the drums and just burn out. You know, and it just really it keeps that train of thought going. You know, that's important for a drummer. Because we got a lot to deal with. It's very easy for us to stray off that path. You know what I'm saying?
You brought up a great point too, though. Well, yeah, right. You brought up a great point though, because you were influenced by a lot of, you know, great educators, mentors, you know, but Ron Carter from Northern Illinois, I mean, you know, he's a master. And he also, and I never studied with him, but I've talked to him on the phone. I've met him in person, and we've talked over the years and stuff. But he's somebody that will tell you if you're doing something wrong. He will let you know if you should think about something differently. And that's what you really want. Even when you're playing with somebody sometimes, you know, it's like, hey, man, just tell me what you want. I don't need to play the guessing game here. I could probably do it. I just don't know what you're looking for. But when you're coming up as a musician, you need people to tell you what's not happening and how you need to think, you know, and you were lucky to be around those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, I was lucky to come up, you know, in that tier of or that generation of cats: Corey Wilkes, Maurice Brown,
yep,
Aaron Gessu, Norman Pong, you know, like and then, you know, and many other cats, Savoir Faire,
yeah.
You know, so many guys in that particular parallel that came up, and we were lucky enough to still be around cats like Vaughn and Fred.
Yep.
And then right after us, here comes Junius Paul and Justin Diller, and then after that, here comes Marquise Hill and Ryan Neither,
yeah.
And all of these great, you know, of Tim Bennett, of John Foster Brooks. I can think of a lineage, and now it's just, it keeps coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I was lucky, so we were all able to come up around the elders, and they would tell you. Vaughn would tell you.
Oh yeah.
Say it, baby. You know, but they would tell you, and they would be very honest. Carter, you know, Professor Carter was very brutal. Some guys could handle it, and some guys or gals could handle it. But, you know, he told you, you know, if you were swinging, you were swinging.
Right.
If you weren't, you weren't. And unfortunately, as much as, you know, some of us were smelling our butt with our little appraisals and blah, blah, blah. You know, son, that don't mean nothing, son.
Right.
He said flat out. You know, but he really enforced the idea, not only of just what it is to, what this music means. You know, it's more than just a rhythm. And what it is to carry on their tradition as a musician. You know, I learned a lot from Carter, man, and you know, I can never thank him enough for being brutally honest. You know, and that's something that has helped me very, you know, so much. And you know, it's you know, from just life to actual musical situations. It's just you know, I'm just, you know, and but they always, you know, with the strong hand, they would smack of thee, but with at the same time, they would still catch you. You know, it's not just a total beat down. You know, it doesn't come in a bullying situation.
Right.
You know, but they would catch you, and then they would tell you what you do and what you're doing wrong. Think about this, think about that, this and that, and that way, and they, you know, and that's that's the old school. It's like playing sports, man. That's that old school form of coaching, man. And it's not, that's something that, even as an educator myself now, we can't, there's certain lines you just can't cross.
Right.
You just, like the things that Carter was able to say. And then here's the thing. The beautiful thing about when I was around Carter most, I was getting paid to be around Carter.
Oh, really?
So we would do a Gallery 37.
That's when you were around him. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
With the South Shore Cultural Center. We were part of that division of galleries, with the other galleries, But anyway, Carter ran that program for many years, and then Geraldine DeHaas from Jazz Unites used to always was always there, the founder of the South Shore Jazz Festival.
Right.
He was one of our sponsors. They were one of our sponsors too. So we, it's like I said, I'm fortunate, but yeah, so we were kids. We were making minimum wage, $4.25 or $5.25 for 4 hours to deal with Carter, and he would only be there for like 3 hours, and because he would go back and forth from DeKalb. That's a 2-hour drive back and forth.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, and Marquise went to Northern, and a lot of those guys went to Northern. So
and you know how you got to him from that program.
Yeah, and Marquise I remember interviewing Marquise, and I met Marquise when he was younger, and even a year ago or so when I was talking to him, he's talking about coming in from Northern, coming to Velvet, and hanging at the Velvet Lounge and jamming and doing some jam session stuff. So you must have been there with him. You were probably playing, and then he was probably sitting in with you maybe. At the Velvet Lounge, right? He's probably coming in from Northern.
Even funny enough, I remember Marquise when Marquise was a very, very, and he's still a very quiet, very humble guy, but Marquise barely talked, because they went to Dixon. They're part of Jimmy Ellis's niece's lineage at Dixon. Him and Ryan Neidler, Jabari Powell, a bunch of other cats, his sister Zakia, who's now in the business side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I remember the day when she walked him in. She said, "Carla, I got a whole new batch for you." And it was him and Ryan and all of those guys. But Marquise was very, very quiet. Didn't say very much. Nothing. And and funny enough, yes, I actually have videos of me playing with Fred at the Velvet. We were doing benefits for St. Joseph with Mr. Webber back in the day, and there's a video of Marquise and Jabari and all those guys. We got them in the club. Like, yeah, Fred, can they come in and sit them right there? And they're in the video. But nonetheless, yeah. So I've known Marquise a long time. I mean, I started going to the Velvet when I was about 18 and 19.
Yeah.
And that was when, that was when Martner was still here. Martner Roberts was running the session.
Oh wow.
When I started going, Martner Roberts, Josh Abrams, Chad Taylor, and Jim Baker.
Yeah.
That was the house band when I started going, and how I got turned on to it. Martner went to Northern first and was the grad assistant at Gallery 37.
Oh.
Plus she went to Curie. She's one of Hines' students. She one of Tyrone's Hines students. So it's a long lineage. But anyway, so Martner was running the session. And so we were coming down there and sitting in. This was way before Marquise.
Yeah.
So that, but then, and then Marquise started coming to the Velvet right when Dennis Winslet was still here and running the session.
Yeah.
Dennis Winslet, Kobe Watkins, it was first Jim Baker and Josh Abrams. Then Josh left, and another Josh came, Josh Thurston Milgrew came, and he's long gone. And Jim stayed there for a minute. Then he brought in Brian Nichols was doing it for a while. He's long gone. He's a minister of music in Minnesota. Anyway, long story. But so Marquise started coming, and then I ended up running the Velvet after Dennis left.
Yeah.
And the old Velvet went over, and he started the new Velvet. And that's really when Marquise really started coming down, doing those Northern years.
Yeah.
Because him and Greg Ward, I mean, all of those guys, they all, Greg Ward, Marquise Hill, John Moore,
mm-hmm.
Chris McBride, Rich Moore, Josh Ramos. I mean, I could go down the list of guys that that went to Northern that were coming down to the Velvet. But Marquise, yes, Marquise has always been the guy to watch.
Yeah.
and because he's a true student of the music, and you have to respect that. You would always, especially once Marquise got to a certain point where he got comfortable within the framework of the instrument. Oh man, I'm also fortunate and blessed to be able to watch all of these musicians, not only myself and my peers, but the younger guys after us. Like I said, I remember Junior's when he first came around, and all of these guys, man, coming to develop. Now these cats, Micaiah. I remember Micaiah when he first moved to town.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I met Micaiah through a mutual friend because they used to have a thing in Boston called the BCMA, the Boston Collective Music Association. And we were up there doing seminars and workshops at Northeastern and Boston University. I was up there with Ernest Dawkins.
Okay.
We were doing,
yeah, sure.
doing little symposiums. And a friend of his was like, and then we did one at UMass. And, his friend was like, yeah, man, I got a friend, he's going to move to Chicago. I'll tell him to look you up. It so happened to be Micaiah. Micaiah came to the Velvet, and we ain't got to talk too much more about that. But
right.
Yeah. It's a lot. I could go on, man. Let me stop talking. I could go on.
Fun fact, actually, I went to North Texas, and when I came back, I was teaching and stuff, and then I ended up going to Vandercook for 2 months. I lasted 2 months at Vandercook, but Kobe and Dennis Winslet were both at Vandercook when I was there. So I remember them talking about, because they were, I think Dennis might have been running the jam session or involved then with the jam session. I don't remember what year it was. It had to be 98 or 99 or something, but he was there for
He was running the session then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And Kobe was just starting to tear it up on drums and all that stuff at that time too. So it's all full circle always, but it's interesting because, we're talking about all these guys, and all of them also are really great educators. And I think that passes down because Fred was somebody that was a mentor, but he would tell you how it was. And he was always encouraging. I always tell the story at the New Velvet, right after he opened up, maybe about a year after he opened up, I was actually delivering Chicago jazz magazines at like 7 a.m. on a Sunday. And, I threw him between the gate right there off of Cermak. I tried to slide it through. Yeah. And because I was living, close by, still do. And I was throwing it through, and all of a sudden the door opens up and Fred's out. Fred opens the door with his saxophone. I go, what are you doing here? It's 7 a.m. He goes, oh, I'm just finishing practicing. I'm like, okay. And I knew he was there from the night before, obviously. He was one of those guys, but Vaughn was the same way and everything, where it's just you learn by example, and that's what you're talking about. And then you... Actually, if we backtrack a little bit, I mean, you attended Merritt School of Music, an incredible music school right on the West Side.
Back when it was in the basement back in the basement of Dearborn Station.
That's right. Well, that's where you went, because now they've got that great school. Over
they got the big building now, but I was there when Miss Monaco, may she rest in peace, was there, and Mr. Blanchett and and all those guys, and gals.
Well, I think Chicago's one of those cities that people don't realize unless they're in the music scene or they have kids that they're trying to find more of an advanced music situation to get them into. But I mean, you've got Merritt School of Music, you've got the Midwest Young Artists, which is up north, and you teach at New Trier now too, so you're familiar with Midwest Young Artists, and New Trier High School, which is probably one of the top jazz schools in the country, that you're teaching at now. There's a lot of music education happening there's a lot of other outside school opportunities happening in Chicago. I mean, look at the Jazz Institute, Jazz Links, and you got Gallery 37. Talk a little bit about when you were coming up and you were young, and you were starting to get into drums, and you were playing drums. And I read a little bit. You played trumpet too, by the way. I saw that in your bio somewhere. But
yeah, that was a long time ago, man. I'm not Ralph Peterson, man. That was a long time ago.
But talk a little bit about, you're in the school band, but then also being able to go outside of school and have that interaction. I think it's important to talk a little bit, because I think a lot of the younger students and maybe some of the parents that are watching this, that will watch this, would find it interesting, because outside of the school you go and you not only maybe get a little bit more advanced education and get into different experiences, but you're also playing with different people outside of your comfort zone, which is like real life being a musician, so talk a little bit about that experience, maybe at Merritt.
Well, when I was in Merritt, I was still able, of course, the school band, but when I was in Merritt, I grew up in the church. I grew up playing drums in the church first, before I got to jazz. At first I hated it. We'll get to that story in a minute. But I grew up in the church, so even with the school setting, between school and Merritt, and even when I was at Merritt, which actually Mr. David is funny because now I gig with one of my David Spencer, who was my teacher in Bravo band down there. But anyway, point being is that even in Merritt, I wasn't doing any drum set stuff. That was all orchestral snare drum stuff. I didn't play the drum set then.
Yeah.
So I was only able to play and even in the school band, we only played the drum set for certain things.
As a concert band, right? You're playing concert band.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, but even with that, I was still able to play drums in church. And be able to get that type of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I didn't get to Merritt till I was in about seventh grade, like seventh, eighth grade.
Okay.
7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
Because my band teacher recommended me. They gave me a tuition free scholarship, and I went there for 2 years. And then I stopped going, and then I applied to Lincoln Park and so forth and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, even in Lincoln Park, before I was still playing in church, and I was in the school band. I got accepted to the fine arts program, so I was in the concert band and the orchestra and blah 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 blah. So I had to do all of that as well. And then through that's how I got into the youth symphony, which is how I got to study with Mr. Payson, Mr. Al Payson.
Okay.
But anyway, even in those settings, because I don't want to get too deep into it, even in those settings, I was still able to play. And then I ended up joining the jazz band because I wanted to play the drum set, and that was the only way you could do it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I first heard that. I was like, nah, I'm not. I don't really understand that. I'm not trying to do that. So they just stuck me on the little funk tunes, like we played Spinks by the Brand New Heavies, and the typical funk tunes, Chameleon, Mercy, 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 blah blah blah.
Blue Boss.
And right, and then it changed for me about sophomore year. Ernie Adams, he came in and really he told me some very inspiring things that I can't say on camera, but. Yeah, he laid into me pretty good, and from that moment, I started to really get into the music, and that led me into, and then that's when the Ravinia program just started. It just started, like 95. That was the first year of the Ravinia program. So it was just but even still playing drums in the church, and I got more and more into the music, and then that led me to playing in gallery.
Mm-hmm.
All those different things. And then my last 2 years of high school, 97 and 98, I ended up being a scholar. So I'm a 2-time scholar. And, Ernie was there, but then Ernie left to tour Al Di Meola. And Dana came. So that's how I got hooked up with Dana Hall. This is when Dana had the soul fro with the triangle goatee, the earring, the glasses.
Yeah, well, he's a rocket. He was actually
that's how I got hooked up with Dana.
He was actually Dana was a rocket scientist, and he looks like a rocket scientist. I mean, he came from MIT. It's like, okay. I said, did you really?
Engineering.
I go. Did you really? Were you really like studying to be a rocket scientist? He goes, yeah. I'm like, I go, all right. Yeah. Well, so when somebody says jazz isn't rocket science, he can say, well, it actually, it's harder than rocket science probably in certain ways. But the people that you were able to study with, it's amazing. And so then, fast forward, you went to Roosevelt for a couple of years, left and started playing, I would assume. It was the same thing. I mean, I went to North Texas for 3 years and left. I didn't get a degree, came back, just started playing and teaching and doing all of that. So when you first started hitting the scene, you already had a base of knowledge from the standpoint that you've met all these guys probably, because in high school and even, in college and things, you were hanging out at the Velvet, going to different sessions, playing professionally, I would imagine. What was that? What was the first gig? Was it maybe when you were running the Velvet session that all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I'm learning how to be a professional and I'm learning about the ins and outs of actually booking gigs and setting things up and getting things moving in my career? I mean, was it maybe around that Velvet time when you were running the session?
No. It started way before that because I was doing a lot of things before Fred came to me and asked me to run the Velvet. I was fortunate enough to be playing with with Von and all these different guys off and on. Now, I don't mean to I'm gonna get back to that, but to not overlook your previous question. It's very important to have that outside resource or those outside connections
Yeah.
to be able to fortify the internal perspective of what music is. Because it's like we can teach you how to shoot a gun, but when you go into war, we all can talk about brass, breathing, relaxation, aim, slack, and squeeze. But in the heat of battle, nobody's thinking about brass. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just what it is. But point being, so yes, that's important. Now, yes, my career started long before that because I was already playing with Fred before that.
Right.
I was already playing with Fred. I was already a member of the New Horizons Ensemble with Ernest Dawkins, and doing certain things with a lot of different guys. I was going back and forth to New York and playing with different guys. I had a lot of friends up there, Stacy Dillard and Jeremy Bean Clemens. A lot of guys, a lot of my good friends from up there, that are still there. Desiree Douglas, and that's how I ended up playing with Cyrus for a hot minute. For a little bit of time.
Right.
That's a little bit of time. But for that little bit of time, no, it started way before that because I already knew that I wanted to be a musician. I mean, I have my 8th grade, they made us write down our 8th grade goals of what we wanted to do when we were older. And I said, I'm going to be a world-class musician. And that's always been a goal of mine. Ever since I've been introduced to the drums, and I got to give a shout out to my god sister on Facebook, Gladys Horton, who introduced me to the drums in the church.
Yeah.
And still one of the baddest female drummers I know. She's a rail agent now, and I mean like the people that lock you up are agents. But nonetheless, thank you, sis. But anyway, I got introduced through her. But I always knew this is what I wanted to do. So I was already doing things before I got to the Velvet. Like I said, I was subbing for Kobe in and out of that band with Dennis and those guys. When we were in our early 20s, or either we were doing our own thing. Maurice and Corey had their band Double Trouble. So we were, I would, they had gigs, we would do gigs with them, and I was able to do a bunch of gigs with a bunch of other musicians like the great Ken Chaney, the great Willie Pickens. Like I said, I was subbing at Vaughn's for Michael Rayner, when he was around. So I was, I was subbing in and out of that band and doing different things and doing different other outside projects other than the Velvet. The Velvet became an institution, but it was also the hang. And that's what made it cool, because we all went down there to come and hang and learn. But yeah, my journey and process started long before I got to the Velvet. And the Velvet led me into a whole nother direction, and helped me to think about music in a whole perspective than the institutional concepts that we deal with on a regular basis. It really helped me to understand that it's more than just notes. It's more than just sound. It's more than just wearing this or wearing that. It's a state of consciousness. It's nothing you can really wear on your sleeve other than when you exude these energies or these things or these sounds, blah, blah, so to speak, and it goes where it goes. But yeah, the Velvet, that it was an eye-opening experience for most of us and really changed a lot. Like I said, I guess you can say I was what you call a bop Nazi. Like I said, you wasn't playing Max Roach, you wasn't playing this, and you wasn't playing this, I didn't want to be bothered. And the first time I went to the Velvet, funny enough, my friend Aaron Gessu took us to the Velvet. And this was when Ernest and Tatsu those and Hamid them, they had the Saturday, every Friday and Saturday night, and they would be down. I mean, it's like, what in the
what's happening?
Right, exactly. A whole bunch of expenses, man. What in the But yeah, so the Velvet just took me on a different path, but it didn't really take me on a different path when I think about it, because it just helped me. It's like you're adding a whole nother element to yourself. It's like you're seeing these things and understanding that the color, the concepts of art, of color, sound, art, how they all correlate, blankety blah blah, and you just it's all one thing. You know, and if we strip all of this down, it's all one thing. You know, but yeah, man, it started way before the Velvet, man.
Yeah.
I've been on this path for a long time, and the Velvet has led me to play with a lot of great cats within that idiom. The great William Parker, Kid Jordan, that's my man.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you know,
Al Stevens.
like the Velvet opens up. You know, I mean, there was, especially around that time and just a little bit earlier. I don't know about now. I don't know if there's those sessions like what you're
Oh no
describing at
no
the
no 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 no
Velvet, and
no.
like what was happening on Monday nights at Andy's or at Weeds or at Chambers or at some of those other spots that I used to
You
hit
remember
at. You
that
know,
Weeds? Yeah.
yeah, I remember Weeds. So,
And
but
Vincent Davis and those guys used to run that session. R.J. Temple and those dudes.
yeah, so
But
you
I mean,
know,
I'm from that neighborhood, so Weeds
oh,
was
okay,
walking distance
yeah.
from my house.
Oh yeah, see, well, that was super funky in there, man. Too, you know, back in the day.
Oh man, with the was that the Native American guy with the
Oh yeah, and then
glasses?
the bras hanging on the ceiling, and you know the whole nine
Man,
yards. You know,
dude, that place was a trip. Man, you taking me back. But go ahead, man.
but you know, it was that hang too, where you guys got to exchange
Yeah.
ideas and all that stuff. So let's fast forward now because I don't want to run out of time. But let's fast forward now. So what do you have coming up now? Because obviously we're on lockdown now. But before we jump down, you said you got a couple of projects kind of in the hopper. You're working on things, and you know, as soon as all this stuff breaks loose. What do you have coming up that maybe you know people should keep an eye out for? Maybe in late 2020, 2021,
Okay. Well,
or earlier.
hopefully, if we can get off the ground some more in 2020, I have a monthly at Dorian's, the new hip club
Yeah.
that's been written up in Rolling Stone and so forth. You know, Joe Brown and Zach Eastman, their baby, their creation. And you know, if you know guys who know who Joe Brill is, that's DJ Joe Mama. But that's the original founder of Sonotech, which was an old joint back in the day. And anyway, and Zach Eastman, that's the man. He's been in a bunch of different things. But anyway, nonetheless, so I hold a monthly there with my group called The Samples,
Mm-hmm.
which is with myself and brother L, and we just brought in Matt Davis on the sousaphone where he's playing like synth bass. So we do an eclectic mix of transient dance grooves and uh, hip hop renditions, not covers, but
Mm-hmm.
renditions. We take samples. That's why it's called samples. We take samples and we bend them and manipulate them and turn them into different things and create right there on the spot. No rehearsals.
Oh, that's cool. That's hip.
So anyway, I hold a monthly there. So I'm there once a month. I also have a partnership with my good friend Miss Kia Smith, who's part of the South Shore Dance Company. So we the partnerships with the dance in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
We have a partnership to be doing a series of concerts. I believe it's 4 for the summer. So hopefully, we'll
Yeah.
get some of that maybe. But
Mm-hmm.
I also have that going on. I also have a group called the Spencer Collective with myself, Brent Griffin Jr. on alto saxophone, the great Isaiah Collier, one of our young prodigies out here on the scene on multi reeds,
Yep.
and Anton Hatwich on bass, another creative collective from a myriad of different scenes, and the great tap dancer, Mr. Jumani Taylor. You
Oh yeah.
know, great. You know, can't speak enough about that brother. And we're actually in the process of formulating some things so we can put out some vinyl. So look out for that maybe in 2021, hopefully, if we can get this going. You know, because it's through an international collaboration. So
Yeah, I know.
it's
I
gonna
know.
be tricky. That
I
is gonna
know.
be tricky. Nonetheless, also we have something coming up with was that jazz with the Jazz Institute, the Jazz City thing.
Uh-huh.
That's later on this year, like in December with Miguel de la Serna, and I forgot who else is involved. Let's see what else, man. So many things got blocked out. You got to kind of
Well, and also, you know, people can tune in to your Facebook, and let's
yeah.
tell them how to tune in on your Facebook. We'll link it all up and tag you, but they can find you. But let's tune in. Do you have a regular schedule when you're going to jump on and do some of these things? I mean, because it's usually like what 11 o'clock at night or so is when you're jumping up there and you're playing, or what?
Sometimes it varies, but
Yeah.
I'll try to make it a regular sentence. How you got me on blast, MJ? Now I have to be official. So let's try to try to look for me during the day on Thursdays. We'll
Okay.
go Thursdays at noon.
All right. All right.
Thursdays noon to 1. You can chat with Isaiah Spencer, and I'm serious. I'm gonna keep it going. Now you
See?
don't put me on blast. I'm not gonna fail you.
All right.
So,
All right. Well,
but no, seriously. So yeah, and you can also just keep up with me on Facebook because I know you're short on time. I done ran my mouth.
no.
So just keep up with me on Facebook and Instagram, which is my name, Swingstar79. And
By the way, that's a great email address. By the way, Swingstar. I know exactly what that is. I was like, okay.
man, I've had that email since I was 16, man.
Did you ever play a swing star?
Yeah, I actually have a Swingstar sitting right here.
Oh, did you?
You talking to Thomas? I got a bunch of. If I showed you the drums I have right now, you'd probably be like, man, what the hell? I give it. You gonna go there? Here, take a peek at that.
Oh, there it is. See, there it is. Look at that.
That's not baby.
Wow. What year is that?
But that's a 16, 12, 14. That's a Ludwig. I bought that from this cat on Facebook. You know Eric Bender anyway.
Yep.
Buy his stuff. He's got great drums. Anyway, but yeah, so I bought that from him, and that's one of my joints. I got I got the red sparkle slingerland,
Yep.
different things. I have some Thomas. This is a Thomas. Here, this one. There's one.
Oh, look at this! Look at this guy. Now,
now you're gonna make me do it.
Look at that.
There's my other. There's my Imperial Star. Oh, there's the swing star right there.
Yep. Look at that.
And then you got this one. I'll give you a quick peek before we get up out of here. Y'all know about that one. And my acro. I have an arsenal of drums.
Man. You're locked in. You're ready. You're ready for anything, man. You're ready for anything.
Here, look at all this. I'm ashamed, but look at all this. There's bags.
Oh man.
Bags. Anybody who knows me, I got 324 here. There's bags, and I'm not done. There's still bags.
Look at
that.
That's
another bag.
That's the reason.
It's terrible. I'm bad.
That's the reason why I stopped playing on cymbals, because I kept buying them. So I got stuck. I had like 20 cymbals at one point. I'm like, all right, that's enough. I don't want to play. That's it. I'm sticking with the ones I have. That's it. It sounds good. You got to keep getting them, man. You got to keep getting them and finding your sound, right?
Well, yeah, but because you know what, I'm a sound junkie. Like I'll sit and listen to recording or start doing a transcription or something. Like, man, what is he playing on?
Yeah.
So me, I'm the type of guy, I'll come up in my attic and see what I have in my bag, And I'm fortunate to say I got almost a cymbal. I have a cymbal that pretty much can replicate all the great drummers, or at least a cymbal that sounds in reference to them. I'm like that. I am a real drum geek. Anybody who knows me, that's why, man, I have 30 snare drums laying around here. There's bags of snares. It's crazy. But I'm into sound. So I'm like the type of guy who will go and try to find it.
Yeah.
And reason I also have a lot of this is because I started collecting when I got off hardcore and jazz when I was like 17, 18. I started hitting the vintage stores. A lot of this stuff I bought for cheap.
Yeah.
And I still find it for cheap. You just gotta know how to shop. You know what I mean? But so I started at an early age, so I was able to accumulate. I didn't just jump in the game and like, okay, I'm starting my. Once I got obsessed with those recordings, like Elvin, yeah. I became obsessed with trying to find that sound. I'm fortunate to have it now, but I became obsessed with trying to find, like, man, what is this? And I've had a bunch of different Ks, and I don't even like Ks anymore, personally. But I'm an A guy. Most of the stuff I got a couple over there, but not too many.
Yeah.
But I became obsessed. So I'm into sound. So I just look for that.
Well, look at that, man. We talked great information, and we got a tour. I mean, it's like, you're the first guest that's ever given us a tour of their equipment. This is great. I loved it. It was perfect.
I mean, what do I have to hide?
Hey,
we're supposed to be sharing this stuff.
That's it.
I mean, but but believe it or not, everything up here I use. There's not anything in this bag that I don't use.
No, I believe that because you play a lot of different styles, and that lends itself to having to find those different sounds to match those styles. You can't play some of this stuff on a K. I mean, it just doesn't work, So I mean, there's a lot of different styles. So, Isaiah, it's been great, man. Thank you so much for being on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me, MJ.
It's been a blast, and we will do this again. And let's hope that everything calms down here in the next couple of months, and people can actually come and see you in person. But if not, they need to tune in on Thursdays at noon and check it out. Talking with Isaiah Spencer right there. Talking at what are we going to call that? Q&A with Isaiah Spencer at noon. How's that?
Q&A with Isaiah Spencer. I'll talk about some rudiments. We just talk smack. Talk about some recordings and talk about different things.
Perfect.
Let's come and hang. Let's turn it into a daily hang. Drum hang, musicians hang. Maybe we can get you on the horn.
Hey, anytime.
but turn it into a hang though. So, but I'll always be sharing some good information. So if you're around, I'll make it a point. Noon to 1 o'clock.
Awesome.
Hanging with Spence.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, man. I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffers. Have a good one. Enjoy your day. Stay safe.
Yeah, you too. You too. That was a ton of fun, man. I knew that was going to be fun talking to Isaiah Spencer. So be sure to check him out. We're going to tag him out on Facebook. But what a great interview. I love the fact that he really got in depth into talking about his upbringing, his influences, what really helped him develop as a musician. And it's that kind of information that, not a lot of people share just because they're not comfortable talking about it or they don't think about it. But he obviously really filled in a lot of blanks. And I think that if you're a young musician or an advanced musician, you had to get something out of that because, I mean, you can tell how he grew as a musician and now he's a world-class musician. So he made his 8th grade goal without a problem. So congratulations to him. Check him out on Thursdays. And, of course, hopefully we'll see him back at Dorian's and all those other great places that he performs regularly at. Now, changing gears a little bit, tomorrow we're going to have the great bassist Chuck Webb. Chuck Webb is going to join us tomorrow, and we'll be back on at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And then on Friday, we're going to have Will Phelan on, singer-songwriter extraordinaire here from Chicago. And I'll be announcing next week's guest list very shortly. Of course, all the information is at chicagomusicrevealed.com. Leave us a comment. Shoot us a DM. As I always say, if you like this show, please share it. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, call the grandkids. 4 p.m. The next show tomorrow at 4 p.m. You can check us out right here, same time. Hopefully I will see you somewhere in person at some point soon. But if not, hopefully I'll see you somewhere out on the scene here at the next broadcast, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks for watching.